Another important thing which the prophecies of Daniel chapter 9 verses 24 to 27 shows us, which the Jews would not like us to know, is the fact that the Jews, the people of the prince that shall come, will cause their city, Jerusalem, and the sanctuary to be destroyed in war. Scripture says in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 26, "And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined." In the book of John chapter 1 verses 10 and 11, we are told that the Messiah, who is God, for he created the world. He came to his own, the people of the prince, and his own received him not. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. John 1:10, 11. This desolation of the temple were to be effective until the final finish. And the wrath determined is poured out upon the desolate, the papal power, according to verse 27, which says, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." Daniel 9:27. The destruction of the city and temple, because of the rejection of Jesus, was prophesied by Jesus himself. Let us look at the words of Christ in the book of Matthew and Luke. Jesus said unto his disciples, "See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another, that shall not be thrown down." Matthew 24 verse 2. "And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck, in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." Luke chapter 21 verses 20 unto 24. Because the Jews did not accept that the Messiah was amongst them, they would cause the city and temple to be destroyed. Here is the biblical account of that truth in Luke chapter 19 verses 41 to 44. "And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that, if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city, and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. But now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation." The fact that the Jews, the people of the prince that shall come, caused the city and temple to be destroyed, is seen in many ways in Josephus' account of the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 after Christ's birth. Here are a series of quotations that shows the Jews, and their responsibility. "Now, as to the attack the zealots made upon the people, and which esteemed the beginning of the city's destruction, it hath been already explained after an accurate manner. As also whence it arose, and to how great a mischief it was increased. But for the present sedition, one should not mistake if he called it a sedition begotten by another sedition, and to be like a wild beast grown mad, which for the want of food from abroad, fell now upon eating its own flesh." Josephus, Complete Works, page 547. "But slew moreover many of the priests, as they were about their sacred ministration. For notwithstanding these men were mad with all sorts of impiety, yet did they still admit those that desired to offer their sacrifices, although they took care to search the people of their own country beforehand, and both suspected and watched them, while they were not so much afraid of strangers, who, although they had gotten leave of them, to come into that court, were yet often destroyed by this sedition, for those darts that were thrown by the engines came with that force, that they went over all the buildings, and the temple itself, and fell upon the priests, and those that were about the sacred offices, insomuch that many persons who came thither with great zeal from the ends of the earth, to offer sacrifices at this celebrated place, which was esteemed holy by all mankind, fell down before their own sacrifices themselves, and sprinkled the altar, which was venerable among all men, both Greeks and barbarians, with their own blood, till the dead bodies of strangers were mingled together with those of their own country, and those of profane persons with those of the priests. And the blood of all sorts of dead carcasses stood in lakes in the holy courts themselves. And now, O most wretched city, what misery so great as this didst thou suffer from the Romans, when they came to purify thee from thy intense hatred? For thou couldst be no longer a place fit for God, nor couldst thou longer continue in being, after thou hadst been a sepulchre for the bodies of thine own people, and hadst made the holy house itself a burying place in this civil war of thine. Josephus, Complete Works, pages 547 to 548. The Jews were the ones who first set fire to their temple before the Romans ventured to do so. We are told, O hard-hearted wretches, as you are, cast away all your arms, and take pity of your country already going to ruin. Return from your wicked ways, and have regard to the excellency of that city which you are going to betray, to that excellent temple with the donations of so many countries in it. Who could bear to be the first to set that temple on fire? Who could be willing that these things should be no more? Josephus, Complete Works, page 563. In the meantime, the Jews were so distressed by the fights they had been in, as the war advanced higher and higher, and creeping up to the holy house itself, that they, as it were, cut off those limbs of their body which were infected, in order to prevent the distempers spreading farther. For they set the northwest cloister, which was joined to the tower of Antonia, on fire, and after that brake off about 20 cubits of that cloister, and thereby made a beginning in burning the sanctuary. 2 days after which, or on the 24th day of the forenamed month, Panemes, or Tammuz, the Romans set fire to the cloister that joined to the other, when the fire went 15 cubits farther. The Jews, in like manner, cut off its roof, nor did they entirely leave off what they were about, till the tower of Antonia was parted from the temple, even when it was in their power to have stopped the fire. Nay, they lay still while the temple was first set on fire, and deemed this spreading of the fire to be for their advantage. Josephus, Complete Works, page 577. This sad instance was quickly told to the Romans, some of whom could not believe it, and others pitied the distress which the Jews were under. But there were many of them who were hereby induced to a more bitter hatred than ordinary against our nation. But for Caesar, he excused himself before God as to this matter, and said that he had proposed peace and liberty to the Jews, as well as an oblivion of all their former insolent practices, but that they, instead of concord, had chosen sedition, instead of peace, war, and before satiety and abundance, a famine, that they had begun with their own hands to burn down that temple which we have preserved hitherto, and that therefore they deserved to eat such food as this was. That, however, this horrid action of eating one's own child ought to be covered with the overthrow of their very country itself. Josephus, Complete Works, page 579. So Titus retired into the tower of Antonia, and resolved to storm the temple the next day, early in the morning, with his whole army, and to encamp round about the holy house. But, as for that house, God had, for certain long ago, doomed it to the fire, and now that fatal day was come. According to the revolution of ages, it was the 10th day of the month Luz, Aviv, upon which it was formerly burnt by the king of Babylon, although these flames took their rise from the Jews themselves, and were occasioned by them. For upon Titus's retiring, the seditions lay still for a little while, and then attacked the Romans again, when those that guarded the fire that was burning in the inner court of the temple, but these Romans put the Jews to flight, and proceeded as far as the holy house itself. Josephus, Complete Works, page 580. When I came near your temple, I again departed from the laws of war, and exhorted you to spare your own sanctuary, and to preserve your holy house to yourselves. I allowed you a quiet exit out of it, and security for your preservation. Nay, if you had a mind, I gave you leave to fight in another place. When I came near your temple, I again departed from the laws of war, and exhorted you to spare your own sanctuary, and to preserve your holy house to yourselves. I allowed you a quiet exit out of it, and security for your preservation. Nay, if you had a mind, I gave you leave to fight in another place. Yet have you still despised every one of my proposals, and have set fire to your holy house with your own hands. And now, vile wretches, do you desire to treat with me by word of mouth? To what purpose is it that you would save such a holy house as this was, which is now destroyed? What preservation can you now desire after the destruction of your temple? Josephus' Complete Works, page 584. The facts are, the Jews themselves were blamed for causing their city and temple to be destroyed. One hope, you sirs, are now satisfied with the miseries of your country, who have not had any just notions, either of our great power, or of your own great weakness, but have, like madmen, after a violent and inconsiderate manner, made such attempts as have brought your people, your city, and your holy house to destruction. Josephus' Complete Works, page 584. The destruction of Jerusalem and its temple was in fact the will of God. I suppose that had the Romans made any longer delay in coming against these villains, the city would either have been swallowed up by the ground opening upon them, or been overflowed by water, or else be destroyed by such thunder as the country of Sodom perished by. For it had brought forth a generation of men much more atheistical than were those that suffered such punishments. For by their madness it was that all the people came to be destroyed. Josephus' Complete Works, page 570. And who is there that does not know what the writings of the ancient prophets contain in them, and particularly that oracle which is just now going to be fulfilled upon this miserable city? For they foretold that this city should be then taken when somebody shall begin the slaughter of his own countrymen. And are not both the city and the entire temple now full of the dead bodies of your countrymen? It is God, therefore, it is God himself who is bringing on this fire, to purge that city and temple by means of the Romans, and is going to pluck up this city, which is full of your pollutions. Josephus' Complete Works, page 575. We are told that the destruction of the Jewish temple is forever, and is never to be rebuilt. For this destruction lasts until the final finish, and the wrath of God is poured out upon the papal desolator. This is the 7 last plagues, which ends in the destruction of the earth and the second coming of Jesus. Let us read some scriptures that prove this fact. Let us look back at Daniel chapter 9 and verse 27, which says, And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. John, who wrote the book of Revelation, gives more evidence of the reality that the destruction of the temple will last forever. There will be no third temple according to the will and purpose of God. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. Revelation 15 verse 1. And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, Go your ways, and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air. And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done. And there were voices, and thunders, and lightnings. And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts. And the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent, and men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail. For the plague thereof was exceeding great. Revelation 16 verse 1, 17 through to 21. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Revelation chapter 6, 14-17. Thus in Daniel 9, 24-27, which the Jews have sought to persuade men not to study, by a curse placed upon those scriptures in the Talmud, reveal facts about the Jews that they would not like to be known. These realities are point number 1. The Jews rejected Jesus, failed to cease from sin, and become a truly unrighteous people. Point number 2. The Jews exhausted God's probationary grace, given to them for 490 years 70 weeks, and ended the period by slaying Stephen. Point number 3. The Jews were no longer God's special people, and were thus disinherited from the land. D. It was the Jewish murder of Jesus, after God revealed that he was the Messiah, the Son of God, by announcement and miracle, and their delivering up of Jesus to the Romans to be crucified, because he claimed to be the Son of God, Messiah. That caused the city of Jerusalem and the temple to be destroyed. Point number 4. The Jews themselves were responsible for the destruction of the city and the temple. Point number 5. The Jews are not God's people and have no special divine claim to the land of Palestine. Point number 6. The temple will never be rebuilt, but will remain non-existent until the plagues fall and Jesus returns to the earth. This is excerpts for the document called The Jewish Talmudic Curse upon Daniel 9, 24-27, by Niron Nadina, where he cited Josephus' works.